What's up guys, and welcome back to the channel, and today we are going to be talking about Rivals, how it's been for me personally, and some changes I think Sorare need to make to the platform to actually make it better moving forwards. Now I know obviously there has been a lot of content recently from other creators about Rivals, but I thought I'd just chuck my 2 cents into the mix, have a little chat about it with you guys and just see what you think. And before we get into the video, there is still about 90% of you that are watching these videos and aren't actually subbed to the channel, so please make sure you are subbed and also like the video as well. Alright, so let's get into it. So for me personally, Rivals has been okay. When it first came out in the beta version, obviously that was a few months ago, there's a few little kinks in the system, and they then brought out the new updated version, rolled it out to everyone, and there still is just a lot of things which need to be fixed, and they're quite simple things as well. And I think for the rival side of things to actually succeed moving forwards, these are changes that should have probably been made and also tested prior to the launch. And I don't think it's a very good look to always have to have lots of little updates. And I feel like there's just some really simple things which need to be changed moving forwards. For instance, in terms with this page here, obviously on the left hand side you can see all these games here, and then if we click view more, you'll see there are games that start before all 3 of these, which all the way down here, and I have to scroll through everything to find all of these games. This should, for me personally, be organized in terms of when those games actually are, so that the next match here, next match here, next match here, rather than having 3 random games here and then everything else down below. And also, it takes a lot of time to actually scroll through all these games, especially when there's lots of fixtures on. So for me, finding a way to actually organize all of this a lot easier would really help. And then when it comes to this little section on the right hand side here, I think overall this looks quite messy, lots of information on the screen. Then it comes down to obviously the part at the bottom here about buying cards. I just think overall that this is quite a messy, a little bit hectic screen, and I feel like as well in terms of how you actually match up with people, it's quite a complex system that also gets a little bit messy. You have to go through and challenge everybody. I just feel like overall it needs to be streamlined. And then we obviously get to this screen where you can then select players. I'm not sure why it shows you everyone, especially when they have the actual team sheet. So as soon as that team sheet comes out, what should happen is all of the players which are on the bench aren't on there. And also there needs to be some sort of toggle on there which shows you only the players which you can actually fit into the cap. So if you've got 50 points left, it should only show you all of the players which cost less than 50. And there should be a few different toggles down here, so that obviously you can then customize this screen how you actually want it. And then when it comes to the mission side of things, these daily challenges should have obviously been there from the start. I'm not sure why you bring out the Rivals platform with no challenges on there. This should have been done earlier. And I do think on a positive side, this could really add an extra element to there. If there were really specific daily challenges which were really focused on, I don't know, a certain league, a certain fixture, or for instance, like a Premier League style competition where it's about getting as many wins as possible in a short period of time, I think that would be really good. And I do think the daily section has a lot of growth in that. When it comes to the streaks, I don't mind it overall. I feel like there needs to be other ways to actually win these boxes. And I also think the streak should have some sort of time limit, or for instance, you have, I don't know, 5 chances to hit 7 wins. If you don't actually hit that, it then resets back down to 5 or 3 or whatever. But yeah, I do think overall this can be quite frustrating for users as well. Especially I think when you get past 5 and you get to 7, 9, 11, it can be quite difficult to actually hit that. And I feel like if people are getting frustrated and they can't actually reach those, they're just going to give up and stop playing. Now with Rivals, I've also been doing a little bit of testing with everything. One thing which I think is really silly is that you can just challenge PK constantly, which obviously gives you a positive matchup. Like I was about 50-50. I think I'd won like 50 games, lost 50. And then I was like, let me just try something, and you can literally match up with PK in every single game. And you can see here that I've obviously got quite a good record against him, which then just pads all of these stats, which is, I think, a little bit silly. When it comes to the overall leaderboards as well, you can't quite see the top two there with my camera, but basically the way that it's set up currently is that if you've got a lot of tickets and you just spam the matches, you can obviously finish high up. Now, there is still a little bit of a skill element there because you still have to obviously win those games. However, if you've got loads of these tickets, you can just spam it and you get way more points for wins than you do losses, which means that currently Sorare are benefiting people that are playing high volume rather than skill, which I think overall is just a stupid system. Yes, if people want to grind, they can grind it. But you need to give benefit to those managers who are actually very, very good at Rivals and perhaps don't have as many tickets as others. And I just think it's a bit of a weird system currently. And with this also, it comes into, why isn't there some sort of structure about, if I finish in the top 500, I win this. Top 250, I win this. Top 100, I win this. Top 10, etc. Why is it all some sort of mystery thing about what you can win? And I feel like, as I mentioned at the start of this video, that should have all been sorted out prior to actually bringing out the full version. The beta version should have been the place where you test all these things. Then you roll everything out as this nice pristine version where everything's fixed. And then you make very, very minor changes. It feels like we're still in this testing phase. And if this is meant to be the way in for new users, this should have all been worked out previously. It isn't a good look for someone that's coming onto the platform to see a mode where it's constantly changing loads, lots of updates, lots of things which aren't really worked out. And that obviously then has a negative impact on the amount of people that then move from Rivals into the pro mode. I've just made a random Dortmund team here just to talk through my point. I know that Sorare want this to be the way in for new users. However, for me personally, I think Rivals will just turn into another game mode which people that have already been on the platform play, and there'll be some other way which Sorare get new users into the platform. And there's a few reasons for this. First of all, no one is buying these cards from this page. Like, if I'm at the pub with some mates and they set their teams, 0% of them are coming onto this screen and buying these cards. First of all, they don't know what these cards do in terms of the limited rare, super rare, etc. They don't know how they can use these cards in other game modes. And they're not going to spend whatever this amount is, £120 or whatever, on these cards with no more information about the platform and how it actually works. Second of all, Rivals is not how the pro mode works either. If you think about all of the tactics and the way which you set the lineups and just overall how you play Rivals, it's completely different to how you play any of the other pro modes. There's a little bit of there is a little bit of similarity between the Rivals mode and Cap modes, for instance. However, overall, Rivals is a completely different mode to the Pro mode, and I think that, yeah, people coming onto the platform won't naturally progress from Rivals to the other competitions. And the last thing that I want to talk about, and I think it's really important, is the matchmaking. And I've used my Southampton stack as an example here. The first matchup here is obviously in the arena, and you can see I'm using 5 limited cards. We've both got the same tactics, and he's using 1 limited card, which I've got. He literally has, a 0% chance of winning this matchup, and he should not be matched up with me anyway. There is no reason why me with 5 limiteds should be playing against someone with just 1. And as we all know from how Rivals has gone, as soon as you enter 1 pro card, you can match up with anyone, which is silly. A simple fix would be to have a common competition where you can only use commons, and one where you can use pro cards. You could also split it into scarcities. So when you're using limiteds, you can only match up with limiteds. And in terms of the whole 5 versus 1 split, you could also have some sort of filter where if you've got a full scarcity lineup, you can only play against people that have a full scarcity lineup, and the same with 1 limited. You can only then match up with people that have a sort of broken lineup of commons and limiteds. Same thing here. This guy only had 4. Once again, I had a benefit there, and also I was using a lot of these similar players. And then down here as well, we once again had a advantage with the 5 limiteds. So overall, there is an issue with matchmaking, and currently it is better for you if you just don't use cards, which is silly because Rivals should be a mode which obviously generates a decent amount of revenue for Sorare. So if there's a negative impact of buying cards, then that's obviously bad for the platform as a whole. You should be encouraging people to obviously buy cards for Rivals, and then buy cards which they can use in Rivals and also in the pro modes as well. And also for new users coming onto the platform, if there's someone that's started off playing commons, doing okay, and then like, okay, let's buy my first limited and start to actually use that in Rivals, perhaps it's from their favorite team or it's their favorite player, they then use that limited card in Rivals, and then suddenly they're matched up against a full rare team and get battered. They're not going to carry on purchasing cards because they've seen that by doing that, they get some really bad matchmaking. It's harder for them to win and move up. And if they're on streaks and they're getting absolutely battered due to the fact they're using that 1 limited card, they're not going to win anything. So you need to make it a system which someone can purchase their first card, have fair matchups, and then gradually work on improving and moving up through the ranks and obviously winning as well. And if they're not doing that, once again, they're not going to carry on playing Rivals, and they're not going to move throughout the platform and go from Rivals into the pro modes. It just doesn't make sense. So they really need to make these changes and make them quickly, because you've only got a limited time frame to actually capture all these new users. Sorry, all these new users. There we go. And yeah, if you don't actually do that in that quick time frame, they're going to go somewhere else. They're going to go back to FPL, and they're going to lose faith and lose trust in the platform. And overall, I think Rivals is on that point now where if they make these changes and do it right, this can be one of the best modes, if not the best mode on the platform. If they do it wrong, Rivals is going to obviously fade into the background and probably be one of those modes which really a lot of people don't play, and they may even end up getting rid of it. And I know this has obviously been quite a ranty video here, so I'm going to end on some positives with Rivals. For me, a few of the key positives is that it makes you use players from teams that you perhaps haven't actually played with previously, and it means that you can scout players and see how well they score. There's certainly players that I've used in Rivals that I've never heard about, excuse me, that I'm now looking at purchasing in the pro mode purely because I've seen them play now in Rivals. I've had a look at their scores, did some scouting on Sorare data. So it's meant that I can now find players that I hadn't actually thought of previously. I think also it is quite fun for me as someone that streams on Twitch and posts a little bit of content that I can then play versus you and my viewers, which is quite cool. And obviously have those bragging rights. And obviously it does give cards extra utility as well. For instance, with me, with the Saints collection, I can now use them in Rivals, have some matchups there, and hopefully win some prizes using that collection. And obviously that's the same for a lot of managers as well. It means that you have the opportunity to build your gallery and obviously use those cards in the pro mode and also in Rivals as well. And I do think that if Sorare get it right, this can be a really, really fun game mode, and also a mode which you can actually use to then build your gallery. And I think you could really snowball it and have a sort of 2-mode system where you're winning cards and prizes in Rivals, and also using those cards to then win things in the pro mode as well. So yeah, I do think overall it has the potential to be something that is very, very good for us, and also something which is a really, really good revenue stream for Sorare as well. So that is going to be all for today's video. I hope you have enjoyed me rambling about Rivals. Obviously, lots of things that we've talked through there. So if you do have any questions about anything, please let me know down in the comments below. Make sure to like and subscribe, and I'll see you next time.